the history of the most beautiful royal jewelry and the value of the jewels. The mystery of Anna Ivanovna's crown, the intrigue of the century. At an exhibition in the Moscow Kremlin dedicated to Peter the Great and the era of palace coups, two art historians enthusiastically discussed the crown of Empress Anna Ivanovna. The stone in the center of the crown is huge, the size of a decent potato. "It's tourmaline," one insisted. "Look, it's not fixed tightly. You can pull it out and check it." "No," the other replied. "It glows bright red in the ultraviolet. This is spinel. I saw it myself." It was impossible to pass by. The conversation touched on the main intrigue. What kind of stone crowns the crown of 1730? Until recently, methods for determining minerals were unavailable, so the ruby of the Black Prince, which has been adorning the British crown since the 16th century, turned out to be not a ruby at all, but a red spinel. And the Caesar ruby stored in the Diamond Fund is generally tourmaline, a mineral that can become precious only after careful heating. This stone, according to legend, was given by Cleopatra to Caesar himself. Catherine II's crown is crowned with the famous spinel weighing 80 grams. Its origin is known for sure. This stone once belonged to Menshikov until it was confiscated. But Anna's stone weighs as much as 100 grams, and there are still disputes around it. In ultraviolet rays, tourmaline glows pale purple, and spinel glows bright red. This is confirmed by the art historian's observation. Spinel, by the way, is back in fashion. Prices for stones above 10 carats have increased 7 to 8 times. This is largely due to the geologist Vladislav Yavorsky, who after emigrating to the United States became the largest dealer of spinel and brought it back to world fame. "It's like glass here," one of the ladies began, peering into the window. "No, it's all real," the other replied confidently. The crown is decorated with 2,500 diamonds, rubies and tourmalines. It became the first full-fledged imperial crown of Russia. Before her, monarchs were crowned with a monomaque hat, and temporary crowns for Catherine I and Peter II were hastily assembled. The shape of the crown is inspired by Orthodox architecture: zakomary, dome, bulbous head. Everything is made in Russia by our craftsmen, Samson Larionov, Kalina Afanasyev, and others. This crown is a national pride. Even the Tsar bell depicts Anna in this crown. Nicholas I was crowned by her to the Polish throne in 1829. Anna's crown is currently on display in the 7th hall of the Armory. To see it from behind is a rare opportunity. Usually the exhibit is turned to face. But at the exhibition on February 23rd, I had the opportunity to go around the showcase. And yes, I did. I photographed everything, including the back, as recommended by art historians. How the magnificent sapphire parure of the Dukes of Kent changed with each new owner. Royal jewelry with coloured stones always arouses interest, especially if it is sapphires. Today, we will talk about a large parure with magnificent blue crystals from the collection of the Dukes of Kent. Initially, the parure consisted of a necklace, tiara, and corsage jewelry. It appeared at the end of the 19th century thanks to sapphires belonging to the Duchess of Cambridge. She gave these stones to her daughter, Princess Augusta, who in turn presented the set to her goddaughter, Queen Mary, known for her love of jewelry. Maria began to change the parure, converting the necklace into 2 brooches and giving the corsage a more modern look. She also added a pair of bracelets with large sapphires to the set. After that, the parure passed to the Greek Princess Marina at her wedding to the Duke of Kent in 1934. Marina wore a complete set and its individual parts, and the famous photographer Cecil Beaton captured her in these jewelry. After Marina's death in 1968, her son Edward received the sapphire parure. His wife actively used jewelry, which led to their modernization. Large sapphires surrounded by small diamonds were extracted from the necklace and turned into a tiara with buttons on a velvet ribbon. However, due to financial difficulties, The Dukes of Kent were forced to sell part of the parure. Their collection includes a tiara with buttons, which is regularly worn by the current Duchess of Kent, and possibly one original sapphire brooch. Turquoise Mystery, Maria Fyodorovna's unusual jewelry ensemble, an empress with refined taste. Maria Fyodorovna, the wife of Alexander III, is known not only for her elegance and commitment to palace etiquette, but also for her keen interest in jewelry. She adored jewelry no less than luxurious outfits, and she always paid tribute to diversity in her preferences. According to contemporaries, the empress valued pearls and diamonds most of all. It was their combination that most often appeared in her wardrobe and jewelry. Pearl threads, earrings, brooches, tiaras. Maria Fyodorovna did not part with pearls either in everyday life or during celebrations. Even the famous Black Ball, arranged to spite the Austrians, was not complete without the radiance of precious stones. The empress appeared in a black dress embroidered with diamonds, accompanied by pearl accessories. The guests were told to adhere to the same dark and shiny dress code. Her daughter, Olga Alexandrovna, once described her mother's splendor like this: "Mom looked amazing in what we called the imperial armor, silver brocade, diamond tiara, and pearls. Pearls everywhere." Large shapes for a miniature figure. Despite her fragile build and short stature, Maria Fyodorovna preferred massive jewelry. Thanks to her perfect posture and royal bearing, which was supported by gymnastics, she wore large stones with true imperial dignity. Although pearls and diamonds remained favorites, the empress did not avoid other jewels. In one of the famous portraits by Konstantin Makovsky, she is depicted in an amazing sapphire ensemble wave. Her collection also included jewelry with emeralds, rubies, and other precious stones. However, what she valued most was not the price, but the uniqueness of the design. That is why Maria Fyodorovna could afford to wear jewelry made of less expensive but spectacular ornamental stones. One of the most unusual pieces of jewelry in her collection was a turquoise parure created by Carl Fabergé in 1890. This ensemble, which includes a tiara and a brooch, was made in the cabochon technique using bright turquoise, a material rarely found in the jewelry of members of the imperial family. Why turquoise? Perhaps it was Fabergé's own initiative. His workshop was distinguished by a fresh look and a departure from the boring traditions to which the former court jewelers were accustomed. Fabergé experimented with shapes, stones, and combinations, creating jewelry that was not only rich, but also fashionable. Stone cutting and working with decorative materials became one of his business cards. Surprisingly, turquoise, a semi-precious stone so beloved by Russian women, played a key role in creating a unique image for the empress. There are different types of turquoise. Judging by the archival photographs, a rare variety was used for this manicure, vitreous with high gloss, dense texture, and translucent edges. In an old black and white photo from the Fersman catalogue, it sparkles so that it can be mistaken for pearls. In addition to turquoise, the ensemble includes more than 50 stones framed by diamonds cut in the shape of a rose. The combination of turquoise and diamonds looked bold and innovative, and the antique motifs in the design gave the product a touch of antiquity, as if it had been created for the Hellenistic queen. It is not known whether the turquoise set remains among Maria Fyodorovna's favorite jewelry. Not a single portrait of him has been preserved, and he also does not appear in home photographs. Perhaps the empress rarely wore it, but tiaras were not an everyday accessory, even in the royal family. After the revolution, the parure was among other jewelry seized by the Bolsheviks. It was stored in the cellars of the armory and was recorded in the legendary catalogue compiled by academician Alexander Fersman. However, the historical value of the decoration, created less than 2 decades before the revolution, was not attributed. The turquoise parure was assigned to the second group and, most likely, disassembled into its components. The stones were sold, the gold was melted down. Subsequently, sets similar to Maria Fyodorovna's turquoise parure were found in the collections of foreign auctions and European dynasties. Especially often there was confusion with the decoration of the Greek queen Olga Konstantinovna, but it was a different set, created based on the imperial one. Maria Fyodorovna's turquoise parure is a symbol of taste, innovation, and courage in the jewelry fashion of the imperial era. Although the jewelry has not survived to the present day, it remains a bright page in the history of Russian jewelry and a testament to the aesthetic flair of the last great empress. In the 20th century, it is difficult to find a more luxurious and spectacular emerald brooch in jewelry than the one that belonged to Marjorie Post. Today, this piece of jewelry can be seen in the museum that became her home, in the estate that preserves her memory. I have repeatedly written about Marjorie Post and her passion for collecting jewelry. Marie Antoinette's earrings and 2 necklaces, one sapphire and one pearl, stand out among her collections. However, even against the background of these masterpieces, this brooch stands out and is associated with it. In the painting Portrait of Marjorie with her daughter Nadinia, future actress Dina Merrill, painted by Eugene de Blas in 1929, you can see a magnificent bunch of emeralds falling from her shoulder. This is a unique combination of the Art Deco style and the craftsmanship of Indian jewelers of the past, embodied by Cartier. The Indian period at Cartier began in 1911, when George V and his wife travelled to India for a ceremony in honour of the new monarch's ascension to the throne. A magnificent set of emerald jewelry, parure Delhi Darbar, was created for Maria of Teck. Since then, Cartier began to create jewelry in a modern spirit, but using antique carved Indian emeralds. This brooch, although not created specifically for Marjorie Post, has become one of her most valuable acquisitions. It is especially interesting to compare the sketch of the brooch with its finished embodiment. The Art Deco style with its geometric shapes is immediately recognizable, but thanks to the soft, rounded lines, the brooch looks different. Jewelry from the 1920s and 1930s was often angular, but here, thanks to Indian cabochons, the impression becomes completely different. The brooch is decorated with 1 hexagonal, 1 oval, 5 emerald drops, 2 emeralds pairs, 5 round and 65 small emeralds. Diamonds add luster to it, and platinum, popularized by Cartier at the beginning of the 20th century, is almost invisible behind precious stones. The jewelry can be worn as a brooch or as a pendant to a necklace, which makes it versatile and exquisite. The tiara that adorned Lady Diana at her wedding has become one of the most recognizable symbols of the British aristocracy. This piece of jewelry is not just an accessory, it embodies the history, traditions, and significance of the family heritage. The tiara was created in 1767 for Viscountess Montague, the wife of the 7th Viscount. However, her appearance changed over time. In 1919, Lady Sarah, daughter of the 4th Earl Spencer, gave the diamond jewelry to Lady Cynthia Hamilton, who in the same year became the wife of the future 7th Earl Spencer, Diana's future grandfather. This decoration has become the centerpiece of the tiara. In 1919, the tiara was redesigned, adding new elements, possibly from old family jewels. But that was just the beginning of her transformation. In 1937, the year of the coronation of George VI, the tiara was again changed by jewelers of the famous Garrard House. It was then that she acquired her modern look. Interestingly, at the coronation, Lady Cynthia, by that time already Countess Spencer, wore a different tiara, but she also often wore this one over the years. After the death of Lady Cynthia and her husband, the 7th Earl, in 1975, the 8th Earl Spencer, Diana's father, became the new owner of the tiara. Now this tiara is associated almost exclusively with Lady Diana, Although her older sisters also got married in this jewelry, it was Diana who became its most famous wearer. Interestingly, she chose this particular tiara for her wedding, rather than another, taller and decorated with motifs in the form of honeysuckle, which was worn at the coronations of George VI and Elizabeth II. The tiara is decorated with flowers, stars and swirls forming hearts. Its design is perfect for a wedding celebration. Although Diana was not the owner of the tiara, the jewelry remained the property of her father and then passed to her brother. However, she was the one who used it over the years. Diana's position as the daughter-in-law of the Prince of Wales required the presence of such jewelry. The fate of the tiara today, the tiara of the Spencer family continues to be in the spotlight. It is worn at various events, it participates in exhibitions and remains in use. This is a rarity for such jewelry, many of which are kept in safes and rarely appear in public. The tiara of the Spencer family is not just an ornament, it is a symbol that continues to live and inspire due to its rich history and significance. Tiara of the Plunket Barons, how the decoration happened to be on the head of Queen Elizabeth II. Over the years of her reign, Queen Elizabeth II wore many magnificent tiaras, each of which had its own history and came from the treasury of the crown. However, one day in early 1973, an exception occurred, and it is about this rare case that we will tell you today. We are talking about a diamond tiara known as the plunket tiara, which unexpectedly helped the monarch out in an unforeseen situation. Before proceeding to the story itself, it is worth learning more about the owner of this unique jewelry, Lord Patrick Plunket, the 7th Baron of this family. Who was he to the Queen? Patrick came from the Irish aristocracy. His father was Terence Conyngham, 6th Baron Plunket, and his mother was Dorothy Mabel Lewis. After losing his parents in a plane crash in California at the age of 15, the young Baron received a brilliant education at Eton College, after which he began serving in the Irish Guards. Later, he became chief equerry to George VI, and since 1954, after the coronation of Elizabeth II, he headed the royal household. He remained in this post until his death in 1975. Tall, elegant, and impeccably mannered, Plunket organised receptions, banquets, and private celebrations at the Windsor residence. He was not just a courtier, but a true friend of the young Queen. It was he who supported Elizabeth in difficult moments, especially during Prince Philip's 4-month foreign tour. Lady Annabel Goldsmith, his cousin, recalled in an interview with The Sun, "He was devoted to her from the very first days. They shared a special trust. Patrick was the only one who could afford to communicate with the Queen on equal terms. Their friendship was based on sincerity and deep respect." Historian Andrew Wilson wrote that in 1956, when Prince Philip was on a long voyage on the royal yacht Britannia, Plunket became Elizabeth's emotional support. According to biographers, in the Queen's entire life, no one, except the Duke of Edinburgh, was as close to her spiritually as Lord Plunket. In 1975, Patrick Plunket died of liver cancer at the age of 51. His death deeply shocked the Queen. Violating protocol, she personally attended his funeral at the Royal Chapel, and then at the memorial service in the Guards. She herself took part in the drafting of his obituary and ordered the construction of a memorial chapel in his honour in Windsor Park, personally approving its architecture and design. There were rumours that they were connected by something more than friendship, but there is no official confirmation of this. One thing is clear: Patrick held a special place in the Queen's heart. And now let's return to that fateful evening on January 3rd, 1973. The Queen was on her way to Covent Garden for the Fanfare of Europe concert, dedicated to Britain's accession to the EEC. She was immaculately dressed, but suddenly the unexpected happened. The tiara broke on the way. It was unknown exactly what had happened, but there was no time to return to the palace. Patrick Plunket came to the rescue. His house was located along the route of the motorcade, and he did not hesitate to offer the Queen his family tiara. Elizabeth II put on the jewelry and arrived at the Opera House as if nothing had happened, sparkling in diamond jewelry. However, the ordeal did not end there either. The monarch was met at the theatre by protesters who expressed dissatisfaction with the country's accession to the EEC. The Queen and Prime Minister Heath were booed. It turned out to be a really eventful evening. Lord Plunket himself had excellent taste and collected works of art. He even played the role of advisor when choosing the Poltimore tiara for Princess Margaret. Although Patrick never married, he was interested in jewelry as valuable assets. In the 1960s, he sold the old family tiara and purchased a new one, the one that later turned out to be on the Queen's head. The purchase was made at the Wartski Antique Salon in London. Prior to Lord Plunket's acquisition, this tiara had already appeared in public space. In 1959, it could be seen on the cover of Tatler magazine, and in 1966 in a Wartski advertising brochure. It is still a mystery which royal tiara had to be replaced that night. Some believe that it was about the famous Vladimir tiara, one of Elizabeth II's favourite ornaments in those years.